One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.
We all said we weren't going to do that.
Welcome back, everyone, to One Word.
One word.
One word.
Wow.
I haven't got some of that bass part in there.
Do we need to say, wait, hold on.
I'm Dominic.
Oh my gosh, I'm Jenna. I'm like tweaking a little bit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Chloe. And I'm Clara.
Wow. This was the
My eyes are watering.
interesting
I'm
opening
sorry,
we
guys.
had.
It's my fault. I wanted everybody to chatter their teeth when we started the episode, and nobody did it except for me. So.
Yeah, I took my headphones off and I started panicking.
I'm so
And we were
sorry.
already recording.
I'm so sorry.
Do we want to try it once? Everyone do their teeth now. Ready? Go.
So gross. The
Carson
listeners are
out.
just going to be
No,
like, that's it. I'm
I'm
done.
so
Get me
sorry.
outta here.
We can cut
They're
that
not
out.
coming back for season 3. I can guarantee
Well,
you that.
I won't be here, so it doesn't even matter to me.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We have a
They
new.
won't be here.
We have a new voice here.
Yeah.
Matthew
It's a
Harmon.
team voice.
Hello. I'm Matthew.
You
Nice
hear
to meet
that
you.
bass?
What are you saying about my voice?
No, it's this lovely.
Have you heard your Jerome
Yeah,
voice?
it's tenor.
Yeah, I have.
Well, welcome, Matthew.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
I'm glad.
Matthew and I are both wearing yellow.
You are.
Twins.
We planned this.
We planned it.
actually.
Did you know that yellow is is energizing and radiates positivity to our emotion and lifts confidence levels? So it is excellent for getting you into the right mood for producing great work, and it is the most inspirational color.
Okay, not to negate that,
Okay, fine.
but somebody once told me that when you're decorating babies' rooms, you shouldn't decorate it with yellow because it makes your baby aggressive.
Oh.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all ever read the short story, The Yellow Wallpaper?
No.
It's creepy. She goes insane and
She
she
has
claws with
postpartum
wallpaper.
depression. She goes crazy. She thinks she sees people in her yellow wallpaper. But she was in the yellow wallpaper the whole time. It's a metaphor for how she feels trapped.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's deep.
Another thing. I
Yeah.
was gonna wear a yellow sweater today, y'all.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
We should have coordinated.
We should have.
I mean, they coordinated. They just didn't
Yeah,
tell
you
us.
did.
Yeah, no.
There was the boys club.
let
They're
you
getting
in.
clicky.
Yeah, but as I said, this is Clara and I's last episode.
It is.
It's the last episode of the season. We're going to be going away to college.
Yeah.
So,
Chloe's
Crazy
been on
times.
for 2 seasons. Clara's
Yeah.
been on for slightly more than 1 season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
bananas.
It
We're
is
going to miss
bananas.
it.
It's
Crazy.
You know what?
bananas.
Bananas are yellow.
I'm glad I got to get in that quote that I mentioned in this episode
Yeah.
because it has been like a favorite quote of mine for a long time. And I don't think I told any of you where it's from. It's from 1984 by George Orwell.
Hey.
And
Oh.
that
Yes.
book, like, it didn't resonate with me in a lot of ways, but like there's just some things that just that one quote I just like have kept in my heart. And so I'm glad I got to mention it before I am off the air.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's a quote from a previous episode that I really struck me again while we were doing this one that I didn't get to mention on the episode as well. It was from our first episode of the season, Potential.
Who said it?
Samuel Coleridge.
Oh.
Remember him?
Thought it was going to be one of us.
No.
I was like, is it a me quote?
Chloe?
No.
Imagination is the unifying power as the means by which finite individuals commune with the infinite.
That's a good quote.
That's
I
a
really,
great quote.
it really came back to me in this inspiration episode. And what I really love about this word is it really ties the whole season. It crosses through all of them, and you can see how all of the words lead up to this word. So if you're listening and this is your first episode that you're listening to, I recommend going, I mean, you can listen to this one. Go ahead, listen to it. It's great. But I recommend going to Potential, which is episode 1 of season 2, and starting there and going all the way through because they all kind of add up to and culminate with Inspire.
Yeah, this season has a really, really cool and satisfying arc.
Yeah.
With the words we talk about, and also just like, I mean, you guys haven't gotten to see it, but I feel like as people, I know I have kind of had an arc this year, so it was really cool to like see the words kind of mimic that.
Yeah.
The way we choose the words Like, it's not just like, I like the way this one sounds. It sometimes is, but it's because the words inspire us. I feel like, we don't choose something we feel like we can't like get anything from. We're like talking about it and we're like, this word, I can think of so many stories I can do for this word. And I feel like all of the words that we've talked about this season kind of have like the same kind of through line of like movements, like moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
That was a little silly. And villain.
And villain.
But
think-
like a lot of the ones that
But
we
they-
talked about this episode especially are just like very much like moving forward.
Well, I think even villain and Schadenfreude have ways, even through a negative, and we didn't necessarily talk about this. There's two things about inspiration we didn't talk about, and let's talk about them right now. We didn't talk about the negative things that can happen that can inspire us for the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? And we also didn't talk about, it has nothing to do with that, but we never talked about the age of inspiration. Like, I think a lot of times people think of older people inspiring younger people, and I don't think that's always true.
Oh,
I
no,
think
not at
inspiration
all.
can transcend
I
whatever.
I think
think
it
it
goes
can-
both ways, at least, for
I,
sure.
I think it should, and I think we should be open at all times to being inspired by any means possible and make that inspiration take us to actualization.
Yeah.
You know, those are two things that we didn't get to. There's Harmon. What did you like about that?
I really like this episode just because it talked about how the
Because
ordinary.
you're on it.
'Cause
And
he's
especially
here.
because I'm here. Hello. But
Right at the camera. Don't leave those cameras out.
Oh.
They're
Oh, yeah,
gonna
give 'em
feel
each
Oh,
other.
hello. Sorry, people who are just listening, but I'm looking at the cameras right now and I'm waving. So hello. But I think it was really cool that just any ordinary, mundane thing that you do every day can just be an inspiration for something that we use every day, kind of going what you had in the interesting quiz.
Or you're going to make Clara lash out.
No,
Yeah,
it was a
sorry.
bad quiz.
But I think a lot of times we think about inspiration being these magnificent,
Exactly.
massive things, and we don't always think that regular, ordinary things can do it.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's just amazing to me that like you can just be going through your day and just then be inspired to do something amazing and wonderful that'll change the world
Yeah.
forever.
I didn't get to read this quote. I'm going to read this to you. And it goes a little bit against what we were talking about during the episode in a different way. Not against, just takes you down a different path. The peculiar feeling of being suddenly inspired by a new idea seems random and unpredictable. But a sense of inspiration has been theorized to be the result of our own minds processing new information in the context of things we already know. A lot like discovering a single jigsaw piece that connects two completed parts of a picture. That means it's possible to encourage inspiration through your intentional actions rather than waiting around for it to happen. For example, learning more about subjects unrelated to your area of expertise while maintaining a curious attitude and an open mind can help you increase the chances of recognizing patterns and links between seemingly disconnected concepts. I love that idea that we can think outside of what we know. And if we have an open mind, we can stimulate our brain to think about what we know and the new information it's getting, and that will inspire us to connect things in different ways. I think it's
awesome.
yeah, it was a great season. Just a really phenomenal season of episodes here. So we hope you liked the whole season. But we got a whole nother episode for you folks to listen to right now. So without
Further ado,
We just have one word for you.
Inspire. To inspire is a verb that means to fill someone with the urge or ability to do or feel something, especially to do something creative.
It does link itself a lot to creativity in everything
Yeah.
I've researched there as well. What do you have on the etymology there?
It comes from the Middle English inspire with an E, or from the Old French inspirer. There's a lot of them. But in the 1300s, it meant immediate influence of God or a god. So it's like God is the one inspiring you, like to do something.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is it also has ties to like breathing and breath.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because to inspire is to literally like breathe in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the other
So when you're
definition.
breathing,
I thought that was
something
really,
in,
really cool.
yeah.
Pretty neat.
So that goes back to some of that God-like things in this inspire. It's like angels or saints or
Right. It's breathing in like what God has for you.
it's like breathing
literally-
life into you,
Yeah.
or breathing an idea into
Right.
you, or
Like
Yep.
when I think of the word inspire, I always think about how like they say the books of the Bible were not like they were inspired by God. He didn't tell the people what to write. He was inspiring them, which I love.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And what I think too, what's interesting about that is that like when you think about breathing in, it like if you take a breath, you are filling your lungs with air, right? You're filling
Yeah.
up with this source. So it's like if it's God inspired or if it's a creativity inspired, it's like all of this is coming fully like into you. But then it's like, what do you do with it?
What
How
do
are you
do
using
with
this
it?
inspiration?
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic. So there's some scientific studies.
Hey.
Did you know?
Ooh.
Of course,
I
there
love
are.
when we have a scientific
love
study.
Leave it to me
Scientific
to bring up the scientific
Science.
studies. Harmon loves the scientific
the
studies.
sciences.
All the sciences.
All the sciences.
All the kinds, all flavors.
But what's your favorite flavor
What's your
of
favorite
science?
flavor?
Flavor of
Science.
science. I like the space science. I don't know what it's called.
Astronomy.
Astronomy. Sure, we'll go with that. one.
Arrows.
He loves
Arrow.
it so much he just calls it space
Yeah,
science.
I came
Yeah.
up with my own name for it.
Yeah.
It's just
Like if we were to put a rock in space,
rock space.
does it
science.
have potential?
Oh my gosh.
That was a reach, but we got there.
Wow.
I knew you were gonna bring
I
it
knew,
up.
I knew that's where you were going. Yeah.
I did too for a moment, but then like when he looked at me, I was like, am I supposed to say something?
No.
I
Jenna, finish the joke.
I don't
I'm
know
like,
if I
yes.
want to be the one to say
The
the
rock.
something.
Sometimes
We didn't like, we were hard on the rock.
Well, you
I
and
was.
Clara were. Sometimes the things
Deserved.
I say though don't really deserve a response.
Oh, okay.
You were looking at us like you wanted one, though.
Noted.
Sorry. You don't follow my looks, okay? They'll lead you astray.
Let me
Okay.
write this down. You don't have to respond.
When Dominic looks at or speaks
Yeah.
to you. Right.
A lot of times my children never respond when I talk to them.
When Tom looks at you.
Good.
Anyways, the
Done.
scientific study is the scientific study of inspiration in the creative process, challenges, and opportunities. So, inspiration has 3 characteristics, okay?
Okay.
Evocation. So, inspiration is evoked rather than initiated,
Sure.
right? Would you get?
So
yeah.
somebody can't just be like, no, never mind.
I think what they're
The
saying
word
is like,
initiate in my head was different than what it
Oh.
actually is.
I think
fine.
I'm going to do this. That's not an inspiration.
You
I'm
can't
just
just like
be
I'm-
inspired by
yeah.
this today.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
It happens to you. You can't decide to be
slaps
inspired.
you in the face. Yeah. Transcendence. So during the episode of inspiration, the individual gains awareness of new possibilities that transcend the ordinary. Okay? And then the third one is approach motivation. The individual feels compelled to transmit, actualize, or express new vision. The thing I find interesting there on the approach motivation, that goes all the way back to the very first episode of the season, potential. The individual feels compelled to transmit, actualize, or express new vision. So that difference between potential and actualization is this is the point right here. We've evoked it, right? We've transcended. So we gained the knowledge that this is going to transcend the ordinary. And then we actually put into motion to make it actual. Those are the 3 things with inspiration.
So it's like inspiration kind of is what takes you from potential to actualization.
Yes, that's exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking here as I was reading this.
Although I will say, I feel like I'd read somewhere where there's almost two, well, you've got your 3 types, but there's 2 ways you can even have your inspiration.
Yeah.
And that's like, is it going to be passive inspiration or active inspiration?
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So if
okay.
it's passive inspiration, you might be inspired by something. For example, I go see your guys' shows all the time, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. I love theater. I always have. I feel inspired to go and be in theater, but it stays passive in me because I've never taken that step to actually go do those things. Whereas the active inspiration would be like, wow, I'm inspired. This is amazing. I'm going to do it. Now I'm taking that step to actually go and do that thing.
So here's a question then off of that, and for anyone to answer. So you said you go, you're inspired, you love it, but you don't actually then go and do it, right? But could you be inspired and take action in other ways that's not you doing theater itself, but it is you altering a sense of mind or treating someone in a different way?
You could. That inspiration can come in different ways. So then I would say then it's still like wait, I think I printed.
She's ready.
Oh, hey, I did. Look at that. Okay, so
Looky there.
passive inspiration, observing and absorbing the ideas without taking action. Active inspiration, actualizing your ideas and creating new things. So I guess that would be in the still like creating new things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be what you thought it was going to be, the actualization. It could take different forms,
Yeah.
I feel
but
like
you can still kind of have it without taking action sometimes too, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I've always thought of inspiration as usually the thing changes. Like I see a cool theater performance and I'm expired.
Inspired.
Chloe
And I'm gonna die.
inspired.
I'm inspired to do something else because of this. Or like you hear like this musical was inspired by blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
I think that like even like things that like give you passive inspiration are still worthwhile. And just talking about this, I didn't know Jenna was going to talk about this. It reminded me of a quote that I have here. It would not have occurred to her that an action which is ineffectual thereby becomes meaningless. So even if it doesn't have like an actual like effect, it doesn't mean that it didn't mean anything. Because like even if like I see a show and I feel inspired to like go do something, but I don't do it, it still like had that effect on me. It could have changed me like within myself.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Why do I know that quote?
Because it's been my Instagram bio for almost a year.
That's why.
Because I love that quote.
So you're saying that it like transformed you to feel a different thing,
Yeah.
or when. Not to go back to this now, when we talked about those transformative experiences, we talked about how when we have a transformative experience, it has to be both epistemic and personally transformative. And so you're saying right there that the experience taught you something that you couldn't have gained without seeing that show. And then it also personally made you think differently. So that inspiration kind of transforms you. So could the transformation be the activeness of inspiration?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so let's go on with
That's
this.
our podcast.
There we
Bye,
go.
everybody.
Okay.
Everybody.
Thanks,
It's
everyone.
been
Let's-
great.
Let's take it a step farther.
Oh,
now.
sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
it's not just like a mini episode?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Not with me talking. Thrash and Elliot.
I know them.
In 2004,
I don't.
My best
they
buddies.
argue that inspiration involves 2 distinct processes within it. Okay.
I have Thrash and Elliot too.
Oh, well, great. What do you have about them?
No.
Okay, all right, great. So this is what I have, and you fill in anything you've got,
You
okay?
two do this every time. She'll say, I have this too, but I want you to talk about it.
I get nervous.
I just have her read the words and names of things for it, too. That's really a relatively passive process that they called being inspired by. I was inspired by. And a relatively active process that they called being inspired to. So inspired by and inspired to. The process of being inspired by involves appreciation of the perceived intrinsic value of a stimulus object, maybe that piece of theater that's stimulating you. Whereas the process of inspired to involves motivation to actualize or extend the value qualities to a new object. So, for example, we see a sunset. We are inspired by that sunset. And it was just so beautiful that we must go home and we can't get it off of our minds. And we pick up a paintbrush and a canvas and we just start painting the colors we saw. We were inspired to do something. So those are the 2 steps in the process of inspiration. Have we ever felt inspired to do something? Clara talked a little bit about a theater experience. It's very interesting. They talk about beauty and art a lot in the inspiration process. It's novels, it's artwork, it's a movie, it's theater.
Just generally
music.
creative things.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What are things that have inspired you, or what is your inspiration process like when you've felt it?
I mean, I think I've probably used this example before because it's a very transformative experience for me. She said the thing. But like my freshman year when I came to the first like drama party and I met all the new people from high school and all these people who already kind of knew each other or already had their own ways, and I was very inspired to become a member of that community and to like really be more involved with theater than I ever had in my life. So I was inspired by all these people and their community and their their desire to bring me into that community and like create such beautiful art together. And I was inspired to join it and be active and try out for things and create art with them.
Touch people's lives, to change things. Yeah.
I think Chloe and I have talked about this before. It's like feeling inspired to create something based on your own feelings. Like when I'm like feeling something really strongly, I feel like there's like something that I need to say about it. It's like I'll like maybe I'll like write lyrics to a song or poetry.
We were talking about this because last I'm not going to tell it specifics.
Okay.
But last October I was having kind of a rough time. And so I was like, I have to paint. And I didn't go to I stayed up so late just painting like a blue sad painting. And we were talking about it today, so
yeah.
Well, I wish I could see that right now.
I probably have photos, but I'm not going to show you.
Okay.
So, sorry.
But yeah, I feel like you're like just your own feelings and like things that you're going through like in your own heart can like really inspire like creativity out of you.
Yeah.
Like an internal thing.
Yeah.
This is kind of how I describe my process. I feel like that is really what I'm here to do. It's just like create and be creative and think differently. And I see it as like waves. There's these invisible waves and they're always behind me. And whatever I'm creating or working on, I just can sense this wave coming. And then at any given time, this wave of idea will just kind of envelop me. And if I am lucky enough in that moment to just grab onto that wave, that inspiration I'm able to harness it and then put it into something. That's kind of my metaphorical way of feeling about inspiration. And they talk a lot about how people when they're inspired by something, they don't know where it came from. They don't credit it to themselves very often. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, I don't know where this idea came from, but it came.
Well, that's kind of how, when we talked about the etymology, wow, guys, words have been really hard today. When we talked about the etymology, they kind of talked about like this divine almost sense of, well, originally when it was talking about just with what you were saying with the books of the Bible and stuff, where people felt like it wasn't from them. It came from another source.
Right.
So I always think that that's interesting, like, because inspiration, it really does seem to, like you had mentioned, you can't will like inspiration. You're not going to say, hey, I'm going to be inspired today. It's just going to come. And I think that I don't know, because you never know where it's going to take you or what you're going to be inspired to do. It's almost like this, when you're reading a choose your own adventure and you and you don't really know, you're like, what's ahead? Oh, here's something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't know. So many of the things we've talked about this season, you cannot know, right? You can't know what you're going to be like after the transformative experience because it contradicts the transformative experience. You don't know what you're going to be like until you have epistemically gone through it. You don't know what you're going to be like when something goes from potential to actual. Like, you don't know what you're going to be like in those instances. And there's so much unknown in life. And I think sometimes that's okay. It's okay to be in the moment and accept these waves as they come with you. That is okay. And I think it's functional too. And that's how, as humanity, we can learn from each other. We can become united as human beings, no matter what our societies are, where we come from, what our traditions are. If we are in the moment, we can be there for each other and be inspired off of each other and societally appreciate one another.
I have a story.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there's a girl named Jennifer.
Oh my gosh, she sounds so pretty and
That's
nice.
me. That's me. Okay, so
Tell me about Jennifer.
So I'm a grown adult, right? I know it's surprising, but I am. And I lived by myself for a while, did a bunch of different things. My path has been crazy. Some of y'all know about it because you listen to us. And then I, a few years ago, moved back in with my parents. My parents, my mom had cancer. And so I went back to kind of help them out. And living with them has been a really interesting experience because I thought going into it where I was like, all right, I'll help out. It'll be whatever. Not thinking it was going to be anything crazy or life-changing, right? But it has been such an interesting experience because I feel like even just seeing them and seeing how they are and I went into it going to help them, but I feel like they have inspired me so much. Just seeing how they do things, seeing their faith, seeing how my mom has gone through cancer, seeing how my dad has gone through hospitalizations and different things and how they just continue on and all of that. And so it's weird because I didn't expect my viewpoint to kind of be changed and our relationship to grow so much, but I feel like they've inspired me to be stronger in my faith. They've inspired me to really kind of take each moment and enjoy each moment a little bit more. Yeah. So it's interesting. So because it can be sorry.
No, go.
Because you were talking about inspiration often comes with creativity, and I definitely have a lot of examples of that. But then also just with being how you as a person are going to live your life.
So inspiration does have purpose and function as well. And this piggybacks right off of what you said there. It serves the function of movement towards the attainment of desired goals and objects. Okay? It could be things as simple as food. My body is inspired. I must
hungry.
eat. Food, right? For survival.
That is
right?
every moment inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
But, and I think this more aligns with what you're talking about here, and this is still from that study from 2014, the Scientific Study of Inspiration, Challenges and Opportunities. For instance, certain virtues that one observes in another person may lead to inspiration, which in turn leads the inspired individual to pursue these same virtues in a future self.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
So the process
right there,
of
mom
being
and pop's carpenter.
The process of being inspired by gives way to the process of being inspired to, which motivates action. Regarding the transmission model, creative inspiration often takes a specific form of transmission called actualization. So right there, what you just talked about, seeing that in other people makes you actualize it. You take action to it, and it makes you actualize it in yourself. Because you see that as someone you want to be.
I did a little bit of looking into this is a little bit of a topic shift.
Oh, yes.
I did a little bit of looking into how to become inspired. Because, we've talked about you can't really just decide to be inspired, but I feel like it's kind of a constant feeling, especially when creativity is your hobby or your job and you're constantly creating, to feel uninspired and to want to be inspired. So it's, people are how do I become inspired? And generally what I found is don't stop moving. open yourself up to possibility and change and keep interacting with other people because you never know where it's going to come from. So you have to open yourself up. And that also just made me think of, in the transformation episode, I feel like I talked about how change is an important part of life. And you can't stop moving, you can't stop growing, because then you're going to become stagnant. And like, you can't find inspiration to keep, changing and creating and growing or whatever you're doing if you're just staying still.
That is.
It's like a grand takeaway from this season.
And I like what you were saying about that too. And when it comes to inspiration, like, we said like you can't be like, hey, I'm going to be inspired today, but you can do different things. Like when I took a lot of writing classes in college. When I switched my major like the third time, and I would often play certain types of music and try to like get that to be like, all right, what is this music saying to me? So you can put yourself in situations where inspiration is more likely to happen, I think, sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
So I have a couple things that you can do to be inspired. I've got a list here. You would?
I would. I really would.
Okay. Because Harmon is going to go out and do all of these.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Right after this.
Right?
So inspired.
Right between this and work.
Something.
Yeah.
So one thing is take a nap.
Bruh.
You gotta rest.
Harmon will certainly be doing
I will
that.
definitely be doing that.
He's like, yes.
Napping boosts productivity, but you do also know it's a source of inspiration. Yes. Several studies have shown that dreaming
I was gonna say dreams.
is key.
Yeah.
Listening to music. How many of you blasted your boombox and do you know what a
Your
boombox
boombox?
is?
No, I know what a boombox is.
Okay, great. When you were a kid, when you were upset or angry with your parents, I know I did because it used to take my mind off the pain I was feeling. Well, that's still applicable today. You can use music to take your mind off of that. It'll give you ideas on inspiration on how to cope or deal with situations in different ways. Stare out the window.
I do that a lot.
I also like doing that.
Take a shower.
I love.
Go for a walk. Wash the dishes.
Ugh.
I think
Do your chores.
all of these things are just like, don't stop moving.
Did
just
my
keep
mom make
doing
this
things.
list?
Yeah, right.
Clara, these are the
Here's
things you
some
need to be done.
things that
No,
will inspire them.
But what is interesting is that some of these activities that are kind of like mundane things, washing
like
dishes,
everyday
doing
stuff.
chores. Yeah, everyday stuff. Your brain, you just kind of get out of a mode, and then you're just using ordinary things,
You can
doing
let your
Like in
ordinary
improv.
things. Yes.
Like in improv,
Yes.
we are improvisers. For those of you who don't know, even though we talk about it all the time, Harmon's an improviser too.
I am.
And when you're in a scene, you always want to be doing something physically. You want to be interacting with the environment. You don't want to just be standing in a void, because that gives way to more ideas.
Yes,
because you loosen yourself up,
and
open yourself.
scientifically, it gives you inspiration on things to do.
This is so cool, guys.
Okay, but I'm not going to go wash the dishes now.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry,
wanna.
Mom.
Fine and dandy.
You can pretend to wash the dishes like it's an improv scene. Good.
Good job.
So good.
You're hired.
Thanks.
Who wants to take a quiz? Anyone want to take a quiz?
Me? Yes, I
Yeah,
love
let's do
taking
it.
quizzes.
So
Do we need paper?
I have 5 questions for you.
Okay.
They
This is like
are-
a competition. Like
They
I forget
are
what episode that was.
multiple choice.
Oh.
Okay? Multiple choice. And I am calling this game That Inspired What?
I like the voice, the fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally.
It
I had a
reminded
fun
me of
voice.
someone.
Don't say it.
Okay, don't say it. I don't. Should we? Say
Wait,
it?
I don't know what.
Oh no!
Carol, I'm inspired, Carol.
I can never remember the voice. Jerome.
Your voice, the voice you do
It's
is
just your voice.
Wait, was it always?
Yeah,
I
it
don't
pretty
know.
much was.
I don't know if you're that great of a voice actor, Jenna.
Oh, no.
I think you're kind of like a one-hit wonder.
All right.
Wow.
So
Love you.
Oh, you got
You
me.
broke her heart.
here is the first question: what inspired the height of British cabs?
How tall they were?
How tall
Like
the
the-
British cab was? Here's
Like
your
double decker
option.
Like
cabs?
double-decker.
Wait, that's not a thing.
The bus.
No, that's a
I'm going to
double-decker.
write
You know
an
what I'm
answer,
talking
and
about.
then I want you to tell me what the
Well, you
options
got,
are.
okay. Three options.
This is
are
my.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a
One.
classic. They love their queen.
hats. 2. Enough breathing space for the driver and 2 passengers. 3. Needed to accommodate a potential passenger with a gossip muzzle. So again, hat, enough breathing space, this is 2, for the driver and 2 passengers, or C, you needed to accommodate a potential passenger with a gossip muzzle.
Okay. Are we like keeping track of our score?
No, we're going to answer
The
this
first
one right
one.
now.
I think it's
The first
the
one.
hat.
I think
Hats.
it's also the hat one.
Hat.
Hat.
Yeah.
By law, taxi cabs had to be tall enough for a passenger to sit comfortably while wearing a bowler
Yeah, I was
hat.
gonna
I
say
was just
they-
thinking
Yeah.
that, like the little like
British people
bowler
like their
hats.
hats.
So
They
British.
love that hat.
Here we've got it. An ordinary taxi cab, an ordinary hat, and it inspired people to make the taxi cab a certain way. It was an ordinary task, an ordinary mundane thing, but people had to creatively solve this issue. And of course, they passed a law to do it, right?
Yeah.
2. What song made us aware that famine abroad was a problem for all of us to fight? 3 options. A. Feed Me from Little Shop of Horrors. B. Apples and Bananas, the 1985 Raffi hit.
Oh, I love Raffi.
Or Band-Aid's Feed the World.
I think
Who
it's
was that
C.
last one by?
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid. I think it's C.
Oh.
See.
I'm also gonna say C.
But my guess before you said any of them was Steve Miller Band Fly Like an Eagle.
My guess was Heal the World, and I was actually thinking though of the of
I'm going to say B.
You're going to say B,
Apples and Bananas?
the 1985 Raffi hit.
Sure.
Good.
okay.
It is C,
Yeah.
Band-Aid's Feed the World. Until the song was released with its videos of starving children, the plight of millions of families was seen as just a footnote in the news. Live Aid generated revenue, but it was with the song which caught people's imagination and made us realize that famine abroad was a problem for all of us to fight and not just the people suffering. The response to other subsequent disasters has been markedly different in its wake.
I didn't know that.
That's very interesting.
So, I mean, people were inspired
Yeah.
to create this song based on what was happening in the world, and then that, in turn, inspired people to take on the feeding of other people. That one really brought about social change.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we do things like that for
All the time.
hurricanes
Like,
now
yeah.
and earthquakes in island countries and all these different places now. It's kind of transformed how we deal with disasters like that, whether human or natural disasters.
Yeah.
Okay. What did a bus tour of New York City inspire?
New York City.
Oh,
There's a
New York
couple.
City.
Pick your New York City.
You know,
Buffalo.
take your
What
pick.
did a bus tour of New York City inspire? A. The villain, the Green Goblin, to rise up against Peter Parker.
Classic.
That's a good one.
Clara doesn't know that one.
I actually did see that.
She
movie.
watched Spider-Man.
I watched
Okay,
Spider-Man.
all right.
I watched it on
Nice.
Halloween this year.
B.
My favorite Halloween movie.
John Rebling to design a better way for Manhattan to connect to Brooklyn in 1865 with the Brooklyn Bridge. Or C. A woman to create a way to wipe windows from inside the bus.
Oh.
This one's harder than the other ones.
I think it's B
Yeah.
because wiping windows from inside the bus seems pretty easy. You can just do
Yeah.
it. You're already inside
and
the
also
bus.
that doesn't get the gunk off from the outside.
Yeah.
So I think it's B. The Brooklyn
also
Bridge.
think
I
B.
also agree. I think
I'm gonna say A.
Why?
Jenna
Spider-Man.
is saying the villain, the Green Goblin, to
Yeah.
rise up against Peter Parker.
He
Yeah.
did not like that bus tour.
It is indeed C.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
Couldn't you just wipe it if you're already there?
Well, I didn't say
it like-
inside or outside.
Wipe
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Wipe the windows from inside the
From
bus.
inside.
Yeah.
So like you open the window and you get your little squeegee and you just like
Yes, you could do that. Yes. While
that's
touring
dumb.
the city of New York in a trolley car on a snowy day in the early 1900s, Mary Anderson conceived her idea of a windshield wiper blade
Okay.
that could be
Hey.
operated from inside the trolley.
Okay.
Hold
So
the
just to
phone.
use a thing that already exists.
Hold
It
the
didn't exist.
phone.
It was in the 1800s.
Anderson observed that the streetcar driver often had to open their windows in order to see during inclement weather, sometimes even stopping the streetcar to go outside to clear the window. So she created the windshield wiper.
Oh, that's
Quite
cool.
a contraption.
Quite a contraption. So this one goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how she was it was an ordinary experience riding a bus or trolley car or
Some mode of public transportation.
or whatever they're saying here. And this wave of inspiration came to her, and she took it into action. All right. Number 4. What device was created to try and speed up the sale of a consumable? A, espresso machine. B, barcode scanner. C, more checkout lanes.
I mean, that's a
B.
good idea, but I think B.
B.
I agree.
B.
Adding more checkout lanes is like adding more lanes on the highway. It's proven that it doesn't make a difference at all.
Especially if you don't have the staff to run them.
Yeah.
I was writing down my own answer, so I didn't really hear your answer. So I'm going to go ahead and say A.
I would like to propose D,
Go.
which is those little like self-checkout lanes. I love those things.
Yep, those are great.
My-
What I
You love them
always
'cause you
use.
like to
My answer
steal.
was microwave
No,
dinner.
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Espresso. So you're going with A, espresso machine, is what you
Oh,
said.
but now I think I'm wrong.
No, that's okay. Espresso machine, barcode scanner, or more checkout lanes?
B.
B.
B. It is. Well, let me read this to you.
Okay.
In the 19th century, coffee was a huge business in Europe,
You're so smart,
with
Jenna.
cafes flourishing across the continent. But coffee brewing was a slow process and still is the case today. Customers often had to wait for their brew. Seeing an opportunity, inventors across Europe were inspired to explore ways of using steam machines to reduce brewing time and increase revenues.
I have a gripe. Can you reread the question?
What device was created to try and speed up the sale of a consumable?
If they
Number
could-
5.
Okay, okay.
There's one
Did
more.
you make this quiz yourself?
One more. What was inspired by dirty, irritated, or messy hands?
Okay.
So,
So
Disposable gloves, ballpoint pen, or soap?
I think it's going to be ballpoint pen.
ballpoint pen.
Because you're being tricky with us.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
'cause,
soap. I
oh.
think the obvious answer is
Soap.
the most correct.
Soap.
Soap,
I'm going to go with A.
specifically.
it's-
We've got a wide spread.
It's the ballpoint pens because you're gonna be like, their
There's
hands
ink.
got messy from their fancy
From the
old
ink.
tiny pens,
And
so
so
they
they
created
had to
the
From their
ballpoint
ballpoint
feathers,
pen.
the feathers got all over their hands.
Oh my
so they
gosh, it
needed-
is. I think you're right.
It is
Yeah.
all 3.
I was going to say, I feel like it could be all 3 and you're tricking us. It is all
In May
3.
of 1889, Dr. William Stewart Halstead, the first chief of surgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, came up with the idea for disposable gloves because of a request from a nursing assistant. The assistant, Carolyn Hampton,
This blood's all over my hands. I can't do it anymore, doc.
complained that the chemicals she handled during surgical procedures were giving her a rash on her hands. Dr. Halstead reached out to the Goodyear Rubber Company with a design, and together they
tire
invented
guy?
The
the
tire people.
world's first pair of rubber gloves.
From tires?
You could say
Hampton
they were
loved the
getting
gloves so
really
much.
Tired
Yeah.
of messy hands.
Tired of messy hands.
Put this guy on Broadway.
Dr. Halstead
What
ended
good
up
would his
ordering
comedy do on Broadway?
He'd be funny.
more, and the entire surgical staff had them.
Interesting.
The pen, the ballpoint pen.
Is it exactly what I said?
A native of Budapest, Biro was working as a journalist when he noticed a fundamental difference between two types of ink. Ink for a fountain pen was easy to smudge because it needed time to dry. Yet ink used in newspaper printing, presses dried much faster, leaving dry paper with a smudge-free product.
Nice.
He tried using newspaper ink in a fountain pen, but found it was too thick to run through the tip. Needing a way to combine the qualities of both inks, Biro worked on the perfect design. It consisted of a ball that freely rotated in a socket. Moving the pen across the page made the ball rotate, where it picked up ink from the reservoir and applied it to the page.
That's cool.
And soap was made
And
a million years ago when they
No,
invented soap.
2800
Out of
and
animal
BC.
fat, yes?
The first soap makers were the Babylonians.
Go Babylon!
There we go. There's our quiz. I think you're all equal. I think you all are equal.
We're all
in that.
winners
We're gonna call
today.
that
Did you
one
make that
a
quiz yourself?
tie. I made it up myself, entirely myself.
Yeah.
I could tell.
That's probably why it's the worst quiz we've
Ever taken on this
the
show ever.
What was interesting about all of those is how they had the ordinary. Ordinary things, ordinary topics, and they were inspired to change. They were inspired to think creatively and do something differently. And they took action to it. And that became something we don't know the world without.
I can't.
Clara just loves making fun of me.
You were just making a jaunty,
You're
silly
making
face.
a silly face.
I
For
am.
all
It's
of
like-
our listeners on Spotify or the Apple Podcast app, Dominic was making a silly face.
Let it be known, silly face was being made.
It was true. It was
I
true.
did some research. Sorry
Yeah.
to pivot, but we've been talking about this quiz for a while.
Pivot.
I did some research on motivational speakers. 'Cause
Yeah.
motivational speakers are huge inspirational people, and motivational speakers aren't often very famous. There can be
Yeah.
some famous motivational speakers, but you don't have to be a celebrity to be one. Like just normal people who make it their career to inspire others.
Yeah.
I was looking at it. And I was reading about, I was reading the website of this man who's a motivational speaker, and he said, I forget his name. John Addison.
I was going to say John. I'm not even kidding.
John
you.
Addison leadership. He said, here's what I believe. The power of words has never been just about the message. It is also about the way that message was delivered.
Oh.
So it's to just hear something isn't enough. You need to be moved by it. Someone needs to deliver it in a way that speaks to you. And to be the kind of person who can create speeches that just move people to feel things, inspire them to better themselves, I think is a really, really interesting career path to want to be.
yeah. I think it's really interesting when we think that there are people out there that want to do that want to make people better, that want to inspire and have a better world, earth, place, community, society after they're gone. I mean, why? What's the purpose of inspiring?
I think everybody wants to be inspired.
Yeah.
And so people who inspire others or want to inspire others are giving that joy back to other people. Because we all wander through life wanting to be inspired, wanting to make a difference, most of us. And so those people get to pass it forward.
And one thing we talked about too before was legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That was my first ever time on this show.
Yeah.
Oh
The
my
Was
legacy
it?
episode, yeah.
Yeah, last episode of last season.
oh wow, that's right. Yeah. And so kind of taking that what can you do and leave for others that's going to kind of continue on, right? That's going
Yeah.
to make others kind of continue on and just kind of I feel like as people generally we're all about continuing to grow, right? So what are things that we
I
can
think
do?
we should be for sure.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to continue. That's going to help inspire people to help them grow and not have things stagnant or go behind to the past, regress.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that the show has taught me the most. I mean, there are times when I'll come to the podcast episodes and I'll be honest, sometimes I'm not super excited to film them. It's been a long day. I've got a long day of rehearsal afterwards. It's a long week, whatever. But there will be times where we will film an episode and it just changes so much how I think about the world or a word or about the people around me. And that experience is very much like what we've learned in this season. Dominic, you said something we cannot know. I think we can't know what's going to happen to us when we transform. We can't know what our potential will lead us to. We can't know what our legacy will be. We can't know what's going to inspire us. And Clara and I are about to go to college and we can't know what exactly is going to happen to us in the rest. We're on a big edge of a cliff here and it's exciting, but it's scary because we can't know. Mm-hmm. But this show has taught me it's okay to not know. It's exciting to not know because we're going to go into the world and we're going to change and we're going to grow and we're going to help other people change and grow in the best way that we possibly can.
Is it an appropriate time now to thank Clara and Chloe for their recording of episodes? They have been wonderful hosts with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a little gift to bestow upon them before
Treats
we
for
go.
Chloe Clara.
Time for gifts.
I don't think I didn't notice though. There were no donuts like you said.
I didn't know I said that. I can't be held accountable for the things or their t-shirts.
Oh my gosh,
This
guys.
is for
They're
the
covered in
two of
beef acne.
you.
Wait, can we like?
Dun, 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 dun.
Dramatic reveal.
Dun, 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 dun.
There
They're
you
so
go.
soft. Ooh.
Are they long sleeve?
Yes.
I like long
For those of you who are listening to the podcast on the true audio format, they have shirts that have the name of the podcast on them, one word, and they say BFAC on air on the arm.
We'll
And
be
they were-
repping this.
It's been awesome having you two on the podcast. Like, it's just been really, I don't know, a cool experience hearing about all the things that, like, just your thoughts and into the words. So it's been awesome getting to know you guys more and hearing your thoughts and being able to be silly and goofy with you. So thanks for being willing to be on the podcast too.
Yeah. Well, we will be back next season at you.
We won't.
One
Maybe
Word
we
will be
will.
back next season. I am Dominic,
I'm Jenna.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Chloe.
And I'm Clara.
and you've been listening to One Word.
One word.
One word.
See you next season.
One Word is a production of BFAC on Air.